Hi everyone, this is Communication and Management Communication in 4. I am Miss Kester. We are busy with Module 4, Interviews, and today's lesson is all about the types of interviews you might encounter in your search for your first and dream job. So let's jump in. The first type of interview is the informational or informative interview. This type of interview is to get information from someone else. Nothing else, just to get information. And you see this type of interview, for example, on the news when a reporter speaks to an eyewitness to ask, what happened? Can you please tell me what happened here? You know, that type of interview. And it is pretty one-sided and it has just this one purpose. Secondly, we get the persuasive interview. In this type of interview, the person being interviewed or the interviewee wants to influence others to change their minds or their behaviors. So we see this a lot just before elections. In politics, that's where the politicians go up on TV and they go in the newspapers and they say, if you vote for me, I will make this and this and that happen. And I am a good person, so please, you must vote for me. And during this interview, they aim to persuade you to change your mind. The third type of interview is the one that you will get in that you will have to do quite often. This is what we call the combined interview, because on the one side, it is to get information, but on the other side, it's also to persuade the other person to change their mind. So a typical example of this would be your employment or your job interview, where the interviewer, the person conducting the interview, wants to get information about the applicant, and the applicant wants to persuade the interviewer that they are the best person for the job. Another example of this combined interview is the disciplinary interview, where the person conducting the interview, the manager, the interviewer, wants to ascertain or find out what happened or why is there a problem in the workplace, where the person being interviewed, the interviewee, must convince the manager that they didn't do it on purpose or they have no ill intentions, no bad intentions in the job. So those are your two types of combined interviews. For the management communication students, you will only focus on the employment or the job interview. But the communication students, we are going to go just one slideshow beyond the others to look at a disciplinary interview. So just keep that in mind when we get towards the end of this module, that communication students have a little bit extra. Okay, so methods or types of interviews. How do we do interviews? How do we conduct them? And first and most obvious is obviously your face-to-face. This is when the interviewer and the interviewee are in the same room. They can make eye contact. They are sitting face-to-face and they can have a conversation. Then, secondly, we get our telephone interviews, where they cannot see each other, but they can speak to each other over the phone. This is an audio interview where the interviewer can only rely on the voice of the interviewee to get information. So a lot of acoustic semiology comes in here. Okay, do you remember what that is? Acoustic semiology? If you don't, go back and check it. Thirdly, we get our video conferencing. In this time that we are going through, this COVID-19 time, a lot of organizations and companies have resorted to video conferencing. We use popular applications like Skype, WhatsApp video call, Zoom that I've discovered recently, to have conversations where you can see each other over video, and it happens online. You have to have an internet connection for these video conferences. The next type of interview is what we call a taped interview. This is where the applicant or the interviewee is required to make a short video of themselves and send it to the interviewer. The interviewer then uses this video to evaluate the person that they want to interview. Yeah, I have a very good example. Why not? So we are wanting to make life easier for the students at this point. So colleges are asking their staff to send short videos of them teaching so that they can assess whether these lecturers can go online and teach many students, much like I'm doing right here. I did submit a video, by the way. So anyway, our next type of interview is what we know as a group interview. This is where multiple people, many people, are interviewed at the same time. And there are a number of reasons why a group interview could work. It can be a nightmare, but in a group, when people are interviewed in a group, this is when many people are interviewed at the same time. So the interviewer can see how people react when they are surrounded by strangers, whether they are shy and introverted or whether they are confident and can speak their mind if they are surrounded by strangers. Also, group interviews kind of save time. So it's not the ideal, but it does have its advantages. Our next type of interview is a panel interview. Now, this is where the roles are changed. Many people, or a couple of people, a number of people, interview one person. So there are a couple of people sitting behind a table, and all of them are asking questions to one person. So remember the difference between group interview and panel interview. In group interview, the applicants are many. In panel interview, the interviewers or the employers are many. Please be careful to make that distinction over there. Then next up, we have our psychometric interviews. Now, in psychometric interviews, the abilities of the applicant are tested. You will have to do, just examples, you will have to do a typing test or drawing test or whatever it is that is applicable to the job that you are applying for, but you will get tested during this interview. It's in some way or another. Your next type of interview is a portfolio interview. This one goes especially for creative types, creative people, artists, photographers, where you have to take a sample of your work to the interview to show it and to present it to the interviewers. So it will be your drawings or your paintings or your pictures or your photos or whatever, but you have to prepare and take a sample with you when you do go for the interview. Next up, we have structured versus unstructured interviews. Structured interviews are pre-planned. The same questions get asked to each and every applicant, whereas unstructured interviews, they play out more like a conversation. The questions are adapted to the situation and to the person being interviewed. Then we get our case interviews where the interviewee, the person being interviewed, is given a case study and they have to solve it. They have to explain how they would solve the problem right there to the person who is busy interviewing them. Okay. We have screening. So when all of you started N4, you started at your respective colleges or campuses, you were called into a room and you had to speak to one of the senior lecturers and tell them something about yourself and. So these people those interviews were known as screening. That is when you are being assessed based on your information, based on the information that the interviewer already has. and to see whether you would be suitable for the position. Now, guys, you are entering the workforce. You are going for interviews. Now, screening can also happen online. That's why we need to clear up our social media accounts. Naked pictures, drunk pictures, all those things. Please take them off, because an employer will Google. They will search you on Google, and you, believe me, you may think you don't, but you have a massive online presence if you just have one social media account. And everything you upload there is there forever. So before you start applying for jobs, go take off those naked pictures and those drunk pictures, and because your potential employer will screen you based on your social media. But let me not go into that too much. I think I've already preached a lot, but it's good to have this one. So that's the end of this lesson. My email address is still jeffkeister@gmail.com. Please do email me. I check my email every day, and anyway, go to my Google Classroom, or go to classroom.google.com, and if you are asked for a classroom code XCGXURR, the supporting documents for this lesson and every other lesson will be in there, as well as self-assessment tests based on this module. And thank you for tuning in. That's the end of this lesson. Until next time, bye.